Hello, this is Jim Morningstar, and this is the second in our series of Returning to Source, Mother Wounding and Unconditional Love. I'm so happy today to be interviewing a colleague and longtime friend, Tilke Platteel Deur. She's been a psychotherapist and breathwork trainer for over 40 years, and she's the author of The Art of Integrative Therapy. To me, it's a masterwork on the integration of breathwork with psychotherapy. So, how our original relationship with Mother impacts our journey to wholeness and how breathwork helps in this process. Tilke, would you share some of your wisdom with us on this?
First of all, thank you, Jim, for inviting me, because it feels very, very special. And when you were asking the question, I just remembered how my mom used to sing a little song for me, which I will not sing now, but I will tell you about it. When I was hurting, she would hold me and stroke with her hand the place that I was hurting, and she would say something like, "Heal, heal, little hand. There is someone around the mountains who can heal all little hands. Breathe, breathe, darling. Everything is gone now." And then she would hold me, and she would, breathe together with me, like very gently, and it worked like magic.
How wonderful.
It feels like a wonderful memory right now, because she's long dead, my mom. She was from 1901, which is, it's a long time ago. She would have been like 116 years now. So I was born before the war, and I was with my mom during the war, and I have pictures in my mind of where she is riding with me on a bicycle, like a real Dutch woman having me in a little basket in front of her, where she's riding her bicycle. She has been raising me in a way that has supported me to allow my own self-esteem and my own inner security to grow. And at the same time, when I was about like 14, 15, 16 years old, I, of course, like many other daughters, started to compare my mom with other mothers. I would get a little judgmental, but in fact I felt judged by her. And probably that was not the case. Probably she was just guiding me in the best way she could. And as I remember her, she was a very spiritual woman, in the sense that she had a real living kind of relationship with her inner God. We went to church all together. And there is something in the way she related in her prayers with a higher authority that has always been with me. And later, when she grew older, I remember that I came and visited her in the place where she used to live in the end of her life. And then she couldn't say her prayers any longer on her knees in front of her bed. She said, "Do you think he minds when I'm lying in my bed doing my prayers?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." That's a good image of how natural her inner connection was with an inner higher authority. But thinking about how my mom was for me, I can't separate that from how she was with my father, and how my father carried her on a gold scale his whole life. And so what I remember of my mom being a mother, sometimes I felt she was more a wife than a mother. Because being the wife of my father, although she loved us dearly, sometimes seemed to come before being our mother. As if the beginning connection of those two people who loved each other very much was the most important thing in her whole life. And then when my father died, we became the most important people in her life. So the way my speak about mother and the connection I have and the relationship I have with my own daughter has been an extremely intense one, because when I gave birth to her, I felt completely disappointed that I couldn't let her go in a way that set her free. I was so much withholding her, obviously, that she had to be pulled out with a vacuum extractor. And so that her birth was traumatizing for her as well as for me as well. I have to take one step back, which is when I was born, I was the fourth child in the family, and my birth was done in 3.5 hours, from the very beginning to the last moment. And in my own life, I have had many, many moments where I felt that I was moving too fast and I wanted to go slower. And so in my relationship with my mom, mother for me has to do with sometimes being pushed a little bit. And then when my daughter was born, her birth took nearly 20 hours, which is a long time. And so we both felt like that took too long. Being a mother for me was one of the most important things that happened to me in my whole life. Becoming a mother and being able to pass forward that mother energy that had been set into me by my own mom and bring it again over towards my daughter has been an enormous task. But as I said before, my mom was first of all the wife of my father. And like I said, he carried her on a gold scale. He was the most loving husband that you can imagine. And in my own marriage, that feeling of being completely safe, was not as embedded in me as I have always seen it in my mom. And so there was a disappointment in there. And looking at how I was a mom for my daughter, some of that disappointment went into that relationship for a while. And it's strange because I have never said that before. I realized that now. So the wounding in the mother-child relationship lies in the way we are born and the way we give birth. And then some very special energy has to come in there in order to heal that kind of relationship that the two people have, the mother and the daughter, but also the mother and the son. It's not so easy. It is as if when I look at both my children, I can see that I'm the beginning of their lives. I did absolutely the best I could. But only after I started to do breathwork and I started to realize what impact my own birth, but also my own upbringing and the war and every impression that had been impressed into me, what influence that had on my own life and the way I dealt with life. And only after I started to do my breathwork for myself, the way I could relate to my children changed. And so there, the healing of the mother-child relationship started to happen. The fact that I learned by breathing connectedly to connect with deeper parts in myself where I was still completely whole, relationship with my children, especially with my son. But before, the relationship with my daughter started to be more healed. And now she's 51. And so it took us quite a long time to get to the point where the healing really could take place, is when a couple of years ago, she went through a divorce and she moved to the other side of the world and asked me for help actively. And we started to do Skype work together, about 9 sessions. And we did Skype, we did the breath work on Skype, and we did a lot of tapping to accompany it, because that's easier to work with on the Skype. And each time we addressed one of the issues that she wanted to work on, there was a moment where she started spontaneously to have birth memories or feelings in her physical body that reminded me of her birth. And the work went to the point where we could address the very, very exact moment just before they put the vacuum extractor on her head to pull her out, where she had been in fear of death. And her insecurity came from that point. And the moment that we were working on Skype, and she was on the other side of the world, and I was here in my house, there were moments that her physical feelings and her emotion were so strong that I had fear of losing her. And I could see her like disintegrate a little bit before me. And so I asked her to open her eyes and look at me, and I just looked into her eyes, and I kept her breathing and I kept her tapping, and she hit that moment of fear of death. And it was just before she was finally born. And it changed her feeling of inner security and the basic deep fear that she had carried through her life. And so for me, it was like I had been allowed to be her mom again, become finally her mother. And the healing that took place for both of us was so deep and so personal that her judgments about me that rooted in that same deep experience where I couldn't let her free, she started to be free again. And so her healing was about freedom, but my healing on my side of being the mother was also about freedom. During that whole time that we were working together, I had to go into myself, find that deep inner place in me where I could contact with my mother energy, which is much more than being a physical mother. It's more like a spiritual Mother Earth energy inside of me that knows about how to carry and how to feed and how to nourish, but also how to be nourished. And so for me, the whole relationship between mother and child, the wounds that are happening between people in that relationship, it is basically about inner nourishment, and from that place of feeling completely nourished, finally being able to set someone free by giving the freedom, have the freedom myself.
Wow. Well, Tilke, I can see that you're more than just relating a story. You're actually living it and experiencing it even as you tell it.
I am.
Yes, that's beautiful. I also know that you impart some of this energy to people with whom you work, both male and female. And in your breath work and tapping, as you use also incorporate with breath work, how do you have to, in a sense, be mother to every one of your clients, or how do clients find their, divine mother, as it were, both through you or even maybe without you? How does one have that journey when they don't have a mother like you to be there and to affirm that they have that freedom?
Hal Stone, that I did my voice dialogue training with, he always said that we have to be like a screen for the clients that we work with to project whatever they want to project upon. But then there comes a moment where we have to make it clear to them that that's only a projection, and that everything that they think they see inside of us as motherly or listening or really understanding, that has to be a part of themselves in order to become the true people that they are.
Mm.
But during all the time that I've been working, which is a long time now, and I still do it with the most deep pleasure every day when I get the chance, is people, when they have missed in the beginning of their life the secure connection of mother, the being carried, the being taken care of, and the being fed and nourished, they have to have a while we work with them, they have to go through the experience that they can receive that kind of deep acceptance and deep humanly love in order for them to make the step into loving themselves. And so I think that mother is one of the most basic energies that we have to connect inside ourselves in order to go into that place where we can really begin to accept, and then what we call love, which is accept and honor, but also forgive. But I can tell you that without seeing how my father loved my mom as a woman, for me that always has been the very best example how a relationship can be, and where the mother is able to fulfill her role as mother completely because she feels so secure in her own relationship.
Yes, and so he provided a model for her to feel secure.
Absolutely.
And as you just mentioned, which I thought was so brilliant and is the key, at some point, unless I recognize it's not just that other person, it is a part of me that's loving me that way. It's a part of me that's accepting me unconditionally, that I can feel whole. Otherwise, I'm dependent on my mother and my father or teachers or whoever else on the outside. In a way, I've talked about them as kind of stand-ins for the divine.
Yeah.
And what an honor it is we get to be that for one another.
Yeah. But there is another thing, I think, which is forgiveness. And since I was brought up Catholic, I knew about the word forgiveness, and I knew how that felt when you go into that little cubicle and you say whatever you needed to say, and then someone told you that you were forgiven. And the first time that happened to me, I went out of that little cubicle being a small girl of about 6 years old, and I felt like there was something was lifted off me, and I felt free. But then I needed to learn that being forgiven especially about my mom, how can I come to the point where I can really and truly say, I accept and love myself? So I need to pass a moment in my own development, in my own inner development, where I need to address my own judgments about her, about my father, and about all other people around me. And then really to understand that as long as I carry a judgment about you, how can I ever really look and see who you are? So, and since you are a mirror of me, and my mom was a mirror of myself, that judgment that I project outwards is coming back to me. And so there is a judgment about myself. And I have to come to the point where I can truly give my past was as it was, and I don't want it to be different. It's over, and I forgive myself for not knowing more there.
Yes.
In those periods of my life.
Yes, yes.
And so when I come back to mother and child, both of mother and child, both have to go through this point of forgiveness in themselves about each other, recognizing that every judgment is a judgment about ourselves. And when we reach the point where we can see the other as a human being, period, then the healing, the deeper healing starts to take place.
Yes. That's so beautiful, Tilke. I can see that you not only know that, but you've incorporated it. And you transmit it because you've incorporated it into you. You've transmitted it to your clients and even your colleagues like myself that experience that energy from you and with you. The spirit of breath work, I think, has blessed us both and brought us together for this work. And I continue to be grateful to have inspirational people like yourself in my life that has helped me in my relationship with my mother and forgiving myself for the judgments that I held and consequently kept myself from experiencing being loved. I not only understand what you have shared with us today, but I experience it very deeply. Bless you and thank you so much, Tilke. Is there any final words or any final thing that you want to say about this topic or about breath work?
Forgiveness happens also like one breath at a time.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Jim.